Hello, everyone. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV, the West Ham opinion show, the United Three. And I am joined by Hammers Chat's very own Charlie Walsh to my left.
Hello.
And then to my right, you will know him from West Ham Fan TV's fan cams. I mean, the vocal one, Mitchell. How are you doing, son?
I'm very good. Good evening, all.
Good evening, all. Well, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with Mitchell's opinion tonight. This is quite an interesting one. And it's this. Most of the players in the current squad ain't good enough for where we want to be. Mitchell, explain.
I just feel like there's a lot of players I look at and I think they're the kind of players I look at and I think these are the standards I want to see at West Ham. We didn't come to the London Stadium for us to see players like Issa Diop play from the back and trying to defend. I came to London Stadium. We all pay good money at his soulless bowl, and I still feel that he's a soulless bowl. To watch top quality players like Bowen, Rice, Ben Rama, like these kind of top quality players, I think have got even potential to grow and do even better. I just feel like a lot of the players in this, I think we've got a really good system at the moment, and Moyes has got a good tactic where we can nick wins. But I feel like the individual quality of a lot of players ain't good enough. Whereas some clubs is the complete opposite. Man United are the perfect example. They've got fantastic individual quality, very good players. They just need a good system. They need a whole change of like the backroom staff, their manager. They're just struggling a bit like tonight as well. They struggled tonight. I just feel like we need better players in a lot of positions.
Before I hand it over to Charlie, name the players that you would like not to be.
This will be interesting to a lot of people. I'm going to start off with probably the most controversial one first.
Sips the drink beforehand to build the. I love that. I love that. I'm going to start the most controversial one. Builds the tension.
First player is.
Yes. Yes.
Then go like this one. Vladimir Soufal.
Ooh.
He's next up, that I love. But he's cracking.
Name them all, Mitch. Then explain.
All right. Okay. All right. Vladimir Soufal. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. Now, I'm trying to name first teamers. So I'm not going to name bench players like Yarmolenko, Masuaku because they're too obvious. Fornals, Socek, Diop. I'm not going to name Dawson because I don't think he's a guaranteed star anyway. Vlasic and Antonio.
Now explain all of them, mate, before I hand it over to Charlie, because I don't know whether Charlie's going to agree or disagree on this one.
Soufal is just a very strange player for me. Last season he was very good. I still thought, for my liking, last season as good as he was, he shits himself in those attacking areas sometimes, and playing out from the back, he just doesn't have that composure and he likes to rush. I feel like he's better as a counter-attacking right back, but this season we're trying to play better possession football. But last season it suited him out a lot better when we was playing on the counter a lot of times especially in the second half of the season when we had Lingard in the team, for example, and was hitting teams on the break, and it suited him. But this year I feel like when we're trying to slowly build up and we get a bit of pressure on ourselves, I feel like Soufal shit himself. He's very hot and cold this season. Especially on Sunday, I thought he was very poor. On Sunday, he does shit himself sometimes, and he just tries to pick up forward passes, which just ain't there. And look, I like him, but when I look at other clubs' right backs, I just think they are quite a bit better than Soufal, like the Reece James. And obviously we're not. The thing is, if we actually want to be, this is the whole point of where we want to be. We want to be a top 6 club every season. That's what I see. We want to be that top 6, top 7. If we want to be that, then we need to look at these kind of quality players. And I'm looking at Reece James's, Cancelo's, Walker's, Trent. I know they are Champions League quality, but I still feel like they're quite a bit better than Soufal. And I just see a lot of attributes Soufal that he lacks, which does frustrate me. Look, he's good, but I just feel like for the future, for maybe like 1 or 2 years from now, is he a guaranteed star? And especially this season, I feel like he's really struggling with the football that we're trying to play, which is trying to be more dominant football.
The one that I want to ask you before I hand it over to Charlie is Fornals, right? Because I will be honest, I've been like that with Fornals for a long time. A year ago, if someone would have said to me about Fornals, I said, you know what, I don't see it. Tell me quickly why you want Fornals gone, mate.
I just feel like on attacks, when we go down the wing and we do rotate our wingers and midfielders, which we do a lot, and I still don't get why we do that, including Antonio, why he goes out to the wing. When we do that and then Fornals drops to the wing, he cannot make any difficult runs because he's so slow. He's just too slow to get in behind. So he has to drop deep for the passes and then try play out from there. And then that makes him look decent. But if we had someone like, I don't know, so Dama Traore, not him exactly, but someone, if we had the chance where we could ping a decent ball over the top or in behind, there's
a natural winger, basically.
There's a threat.
Winger.
Exactly. And I feel like we've got too many number 10s at this club, central players. Benrahma, Vlasic, Lanzini, they can all play there. Bowen's only real winger. And I just think that, Fornals for the future of this team, I don't know where his best position is, to be honest. When he does play central, I feel like that's probably his best position. But even then, I feel like he's hot and cold. He started the season off very well. But then since then, he's had one good game, one bad, one good game, one bad. And it's just a weird one with him. I feel like sometimes he just lacks that bit of real pace.
Right. Charlie, do you agree or disagree?
I don't know. I have to be honest, I don't know. It's interesting because I kind of do and I kind of don't. I think... So I think the key here is where we aim to be, right? I think if you're saying we aim to be, say, a top 4 club that everyone in my mentions yesterday apparently thinks we are already, then yeah, I think we are lacking. We're not good in that conversation. I think a lot of like Mitch was said, there's a lot of there's players in our team who have holes in their game, which when you look at it compared to trying to get Champions League consistently, no chance, right? Top 6. The one thing I can say for certain is we definitely do not have the depth for it. That's true enough. I mean, we have one striker, as Witch was said, we only really have one out-and-out winger. You look at a left-back situation, there's a lot of problems where you're like, okay, well, you need more depth. If you're going to try and compete on all fronts, you can't with the kind of depth we have. When Yarmolenko, when I was looking it up yesterday, I was looking up stats yesterday for some weird reason, and I think Yarmolenko's the third most substituted player in the Premier League so far this season. Like, that's how often the guy's coming on, and when it's Yarmolenko's coming on, you know there's an issue in depth, right? The individuals, I think our starting 11's good enough to be pushing for European competition every year. Whether it be, I don't think it's not Champions League, and arguably not Europa League, but in and around those spaces. One, because I think the dynamics of the Premier League have changed. We used to talk about the top 6 a lot. I would probably argue at this point there's a top 4, and then Arsenal and Tottenham at any one point can be significantly lower than that, especially Arsenal. Arsenal, I mean, they've got a core group of players there who are very good, and then around that, they've got a bunch of jokers who don't seem to know what they're doing half the time. And I think they can quite easily drop down into the position of, say, us, Leicester, Everton, people like that. Obviously, Everton having a bad season, but in general, you're right. But I think in general, I think our starting 11 specifically, I would say, is probably good enough to make runs at that best of the rest position. And I think for me, that's where we need to be aiming. I think if we're don't get me wrong, European competitions, absolute dream. Every year, that's kind of where we want to be. That's where we need to be if we need to progress forward. But I think to consolidate our position, it needs to be best of the rest. And where if you look at our starting 11 against someone like, I don't know, Leicester's, we're probably slightly worse off, but not by much, I would say.
It's interesting. This is an interesting one. This question, when I received this question from Mitch yesterday, I looked at it, and at first I went, I don't know about that, Mitch. I'll put it up there, but I don't know about it. But the more I thought about it, the more I've listened to him, I'm slightly agreeing with him on this one. There's a lot of players in this team where we should be aiming higher. Like last season, was we getting a bit carried away because we had Lingard, and Lingard sort of carried this team to the Champions, well, not to the Champions League, to Europa League. Obviously, you got players like Diop, who's not good enough. Dawson's not good enough. Kufal's an interesting one. I like him, but I can understand it from Mitch. But I've seen Ashby there play. I like Ashby. I must admit, I've seen.
And Johnson, I think Johnson, we started right back this season, had a couple off games, but in the most part, I think he's been very promising.
I think Vlasic is a touchy one with me because I look at how much he's cost and he hasn't done anything. The Fornals one, I've got to disagree with you on, and that's coming from me. And I've not been Fornals' biggest fan. I've got to admit. I feel that
where we want to be, James, is he a first teamer? Is he a starter?
I think he's in the wrong. I think he's in the wrong position, mate.
I would say this. Out of all the players you named, Fornals is the one I would push back on. I think Fornals is good enough to play for practically any team in the world. Now, I'm not saying he goes to Barcelona and just walks straight into the team or anything like that. But I'm saying out of all of the players we have, him and Declan Rice are the two who could comfortably get into any team in the world. Not starting potentially, but definitely he has. And the thing is I think it's what James was about to say, and I think it's what you alluded to slightly as well. There's a positional thing about Fornals that I think he gets put onto the left wing because he has a work rate that David Moyes likes.
If we had a better left back, Charlie. If we had a better left back, sorry to cut in.
I don't think. I would say this because I know what you're going to say because we've had this conversation before. I don't think it's the left back. I think it's the manager. David Moyes will always put a hard-working player on that left and on the right-hand side. He always will. It's just the way he works. He never won't do it. He never won't do it. He's just obsessed with it. That man is defensive first. That's the way he rocks. Whatever, that's his tactic. We move, right?
Yeah.
But he will always put. Even if we had a better left back, it might not seem as necessary as it does now. But even then, he would still find himself there, which is frustrating because Fornals' best traits, I mean, his work rate is incredible, don't get me wrong. But I think his best traits are, like we've seen it last couple of games, he will just pick out these passes no one else can pick out. And it's that sort of in and around the attacking third, finding those defense splitting passes. That's his true ability. It's not making a run, like Mitchell said. He's not going to pick up the ball and drift past a couple of players. It's just
what's
not
his
what
best position, Charlie?
It's centre attacking midfield. It's the person just behind the striker, the middle of three. I see why David Moyes puts him there. I disagree with him, but I see why he does it. But it is, and if you look at his time before, if you look at his time in Spain, I used to watch him quite a bit in Spain because Santi Cazorla were, and I love Santi Cazorla to bits. And I was like, oh, I'm going to watch him in Spain because that would be fun. He's like 40 years old and he'll still do amazing things, and he did because he's Santi Cazorla, right? But I used to see him a lot, and when he was in that central, when he was in the center, they played like a. Villarreal were playing a small HMA. He was at the top of a sort of a diamond type thing. And when he was playing there, unreal, brilliant, incredible player. The second they shifted him out to the left, which they did do a couple of times, I was like, don't see it anymore. It's just gone instantaneously. And it's just because it takes away, again, it's something I've spoken about to you, James, before, and I've spoken about to other people before. You put the positives where they need to be, accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. If the guy's not good at drifting past players, I don't know if he should be hanging on the wing. Because you're just exposing him. You're just exposing him.
I agree on that. I really do. Anyone who's in the chat, put in if you agree or disagree with Mitchell on this one. It's an hard one, me. I agree with Mitchell to a point. The Fornals one is coming from me, of all people, is debatable. I think if Fornals played as behind the striker, basically, as like the number 8 role, I think that's where he should be. I don't think he should be on the left hand side.
I do agree on that. But based on his performances on the left, you know what, I would agree with that. If I do think he's playing in the central position more, so I completely understand that. And it's I'm sure if he played central this season all the time, then I'm sure I wouldn't be saying his name. But I think the most important position actually. In terms of improving, obviously besides some centre half, I just think like if we nailed down that midfield and got an exceptionally good ball playing midfielder alongside Rice, if we was to keep Declan Rice, of course, I think we could do so well with a good midfield like that.
Mm.
Because Rice is doing the midfield by himself. Because if I'm being honest, Suchek don't really do much in midfield
Would
anymore.
you? I know what Mitchell's thoughts are on Suchek. And me and you, Charlie,
I
have discussed.
saw the last episode. I know.
Yeah.
I know what Mitchell's thoughts are on Suchek as well.
But me and you have discussed this before in the past, and I had to hold my hands up and say that Charlie was right. And it was like through gritted teeth, I had to say it. But he can't pass, can he, Suchek? Charlie.
He looks awkward, doesn't he? Don't you think? Like when his arms are up and he's like, oh, I'm stiff. He's like a robot, isn't he? Like when he's trying to move, you're like,
he does.
Oh.
He does. Again, it's a situation of accentuating the positives and hiding the negatives. He can't pass, and then it's you ask him to play that position, he just looks a bit awkward doing it. I think the key to getting the best out of Suchek is telling Rice to stop going forward. I think he's good enough for us, but I just think Rice needs to stop going forward. I think it's as simple as that. And I've been saying this for months and months and months. Because at the beginning of the season, when everyone was like, "Oh, Suchek's out of form. Is he tired? Is he this? Is that?" I'm like, it's really obvious. Rice is running forward, and then it's exposing him. Suchek is left there, stood there, like, what do we do? What do I do? And it's like, you can't pass. He's an okay defender, but he's not that good. And it's like, okay, now do it all by yourself. Good luck. And it's like, oh, he can't do that. He can't turn into prime Pirlo overnight. It's just not going to happen because he's not that good a passer, frankly. His key attributes are his presence and he's incredible going forward. So the answer, you have two answers. You either tell Rice to stop moving forward for 5 seconds in his life, or like you say, you get an out defensive midfielder, like someone who's an anchor, someone who's going to sit there and defend for their lives, someone who's okay at doing that to cover that and replace Suchek, or you just play all three. You put Crowell in there, maybe. I don't know. That's another option. But personally, I wouldn't want to jump to that too quickly. But it is one of the options.
So before we move on to the next sort of topic, do you agree with Mitchell on this one, Charlie, or disagree?
Both. If I had to pick one or the other, I would say disagree. Only because in my head we're aiming to be best of the rest, and I think the starting 11 is good enough. I think the squad depth isn't, but the starting. So I'll say disagree. But it's an interesting one because it's kind of both. I'm not going to lie, it is kind of both.
I must admit. But what we'll do, we'll move on, and this is my question, and I'll leave Charlie's till last. And it's this: has West Ham's mentality and expectations got to change from the fan base? Now, for me, I keep seeing this: we're fourth, we're massive, don't worry, we ain't getting relegated this year. And I feel, as a fan of this club for a long time, from the old era to the new era, that's got to change now. We've got to start acting like a big club. I don't feel like we act like a big club. We haven't got the winning mentality. We've got this persona about us that we just settle for whatever we get. Now, the whole point of moving from Upton Park to Stratford was to progress and become that sort of, have that mentality of saying we're a big club in London, we're going to attract the best players. I don't feel like we do that. I see it on social media and Twitter that this mentality is just sort of, and we've seen it and we've discussed it, Charlie, with other people saying about transfer windows and things like that. You say something, it's like you're criticising them. Do you know what I mean?
What are you talking about?
I'll hand it over to Charlie first. Do you agree with that or disagree?
See what James has done here is he's trying to get me into trouble again, and I've dealt with that all night. And then James is like, "Oh, Charlie, what about if we do it again, but on camera?"
It's just a topic of conversation, Charlie.
I think we need to be more realistic. Is something I would say. I think, like you say. I mentioned this before yesterday. If people telling me we're fourth, shock. I haven't looked at the table. I didn't know. I don't know, James, you heard about this before? I haven't heard about it. But people were very insistent that we were fourth. I think realistic. I think we need to be a bit more realistic, and honest. I think there's a lack of honesty a little bit about it, because I think we as a fan base we get very singular in our motives, and it's either you're against Moyes or you're for Moyes, and there is no in between. And it's like, yesterday, for example, to expose myself, when I tweeted about Moyes' inability to sign strikers, I didn't even say Moyes, I said under Moyes our ability to sign strikers, but when we just haven't done it, And people are like, we're fourth, we're this, we're that. And I'm like, yo, chill. I'd said nothing about performances at all.
Yeah.
At all. I didn't even come close to mentioning performances. I just said specifically about one thing. But because you say specifically about that one thing, that means you hate Moyes and you hate West Ham, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we need to be realistic about this. There are faults in West Ham. Okay. And that doesn't mean I hate West Ham. There are faults in David Moyes. That doesn't mean I hate David Moyes. Although I'm not super keen on him, but that's a different story for a different time, right? Like we have to be more realistic about these things, because I understand how we want to get carried away with ourselves because we're having such an incredible time right now as a football club. And I think in situations where we've just lost against Leeds in a quite sort of semi-deflating manner, it was quite depressing to watch. I think everyone has this heightened sense of just like, about them. That doesn't necessarily need to be, right? I think we still need to maintain that ability of being like, well, actually, there are things we can criticize. We don't have to sit there and go, everything is hunky-dory and great all the time. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything. David Moyes, for some reason, when he's in charge, we can't sign strikers. Whatever that is, we can make our own decisions up. They're the facts of the matter. And I think that's kind of where we need to, if change in that sense, mentality-wise. I don't know if we need to change as such, because I think that's probably just Twitter. It's just the way people get on Twitter. People are very angry all the time.
But wouldn't you say, though, Charlie, that with the mentality issue, is that I can understand this if we're at Upton Park. I can get that. Yeah. Like, don't worry. Right, we're not fighting relegation. We're loving life, etc. I can get it at Upton Park. Now, if you take Upton Park away, put Stratford there, and say, right, we're going to be this big club in top 6, top 8 of the Premier League, and we're going to have a world-class stadium with world-class players. Where's the mentality from the fans to say, well, this is what we expect now? Like, we don't expect to be in the bottom half anymore because we've moved on from that.
Yeah, I think we're different though, James. And Mitchell, I suspect you're probably quite similar. You mentioned like the Soulless Bowl thing before and all this kind of stuff. I think there's sort of I think what we've seen over the last 2 years, maybe a bit longer, potentially it's part of it's just being away from it for a while and coming back and stuff like that, is this sort of acceptance of the reality of the situation. And I think part of that as well is probably Kretinsky's come in and all of a sudden we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we can go, oh my God, David Gold, GSB, all that, it's there. We can see the end of it. And I think there's like an acceptance of like, right, okay, that we're here now. Whereas I think obviously, James, you haven't gone back since I gave up my season ticket. Like Mitchell, I know you go, but you called it the Soulless Bowl and stuff like that, for example. So clearly you feel much the same as me and James do, where we're like, this place is kind of, what have we done sort of thing. This isn't really acceptable. And I think most people have just gone, well, we're doing well now, so we can sort of enjoy it. And again, I don't sort of expect people to not enjoy it while it comes, because that's fine. Yeah. I accept that. I think it's just, I feel like there's a tribalism aspect to it that doesn't necessarily need to exist, and I think only serves to fucking harm everything, I guess. I don't know.
Mitchell, what's your take on that opinion from me, mate?
I think you're bang on. I completely agree with it. And out of all the things, even more than Diop, this probably gets me frustrated the most. I think because the players come and go, but the fans obviously stay the same. And when obviously we've got fans, and a lot of them which have this mentality, which I really disagree with, and I don't even think it's right. I'm not even going to say it's an opinion, but I actually just think it's wrong to have this mentality. It infuriates me when we lose games and we just brush it aside because that's what we've been like for years. And now this year, for example, I've gone to a couple of games with some older people that I know on my cousin's side. It's some cousins, mates of mine, and they're in like the 30s and 40s, and they've come sit with me in my seats. And they've said, like, they've won today, or we lost. And they say to me, mate, like, this is the best we've done in years. Like, you've got to cheer up a bit. That infuriates me after a loss because, first of all, what you said about the London Stadium is obviously the main point. We've come to his stadium. We're now, you come to a place where we should be on a much higher budget. Obviously, ticket sales, commercially should be doing much better. Revenue should be higher, and we should be attracting to a much bigger people. And I think our fan base has expanded in the last 5 years quite a bit. So we should be generating more sales in terms of shirts as well. So I just expect better. That's what I do. I expect better, and I expect us to get better as well. So when we are getting worse, for example, I'll tell you what's a perfect example. When we had this great start to the season, it was brilliant. I was over the moon. But as soon as we started losing a couple of games, I said, all right, I'm getting worried now. And I couldn't give a fuck about the fact that we were fourth at the time, which we were. And the most frustrating thing about the mentality, which obviously you said in your statement, is that all I saw over Twitter was people liking tweets and people tweeting saying, I cannot believe I'm seeing people moan about the fact that we've just lost a couple of games. We're still fourth, we're still fifth, or whatever. This is the best season West Ham have had in a while. That infuriates me because I just want the best. And when we start dropping off a bit, and I see errors start creeping into the game, there's a worry there because then that could keep happening. And it's been a very rocky. It's been a very on and off. I know obviously we've won a few games before Leeds, but they were rocky. They weren't like great performances like we were putting in at the start of the season.
I agree with you on that, 100%.
So I completely agree with your statement, to be honest, mate. I just think I think as fans we're entitled to expect better because we are in a good position now, and we've got a position where we can push on, especially if the transfer window. And exactly how you said, Charlie, about the fact that Antonio is our only striker, and Moyes hasn't signed a striker since Hugo. That's the only striker he signed for us. And you're getting backlash on it. It infuriates me because I feel like just because we're doing well, we can't just criticise people and players. Yes, Moyes is doing great, but no manager is perfect. No manager's perfect. City fans criticise Guardiola for little things he does when he loses games, and it's just part of the thing. If we want to be a big team, we've got to start criticising players when we're doing well, or because if we haven't won the league, there's always things to improve on. Surely, if we're not,
go on, Mitch. Yeah.
Sorry, and if we're not in a position where we think we could be, then of course we've got a right to complain. And if there's areas where we can see there's problems, then why not say it? But the problem is with our fan base, I feel like if we say something where there's a problem with the area, especially with Diop, I see people backing Diop all the time and trying to keep their tongue rammed up his arse. Like for his performance at Norwich this time last week, it was an average performance from him, where they kept a clean sheet against a team that has only scored one goal in the last 8 games, where it was. I saw people defending Diop, saying he done well today. I saw people coming out with a confident Diop is better than Bonner, and I just thought, you know what, fuck this lot. I cannot stand our fans sometimes when they come up with bullshit like that. That infuriated me.
The thing is, Mitch, right, and I asked the pair of you before I move on to the final opinion of the night. We left Upton Park for where we are now. That's what we expect as fans. Like
that's what we've been told. That's what we've been told as well, though.
Right. So when people turn around and say, "Don't worry, we're fourth, we're fifth, we're sixth," and at least we're not fighting relegation, I think their mentality has got to change as fans. Do you agree with that statement? I'll ask Charlie first.
Personally, yeah. I mean, personally, I think we should go into every game wanting to win it. I don't think it matters what game it is. And I think if you look at any game and you don't win, you should be fine to sort of go, okay, well, why haven't we won? What are the problems here? How can we move forward? You look at that Leeds game, you go, well, we're still fourth. It's like, yeah, but we didn't win the match. The whole point is to win. That's the purpose of this sport, for Christ's sake. You know, flipping Usain Bolt wouldn't come second and go, okay, we came second, no. Like, no, he ran game here to come first. Like, and I'm not saying we should be winning the Premier League every year. I'm just saying if you don't win a match, I think you should be looking at it and going, why didn't we win it? I think when it comes to like sort of individual expectations, I think that's just individuals, and I think people take it however they take it, right? And I think for me personally, I think I think you should be. I think everyone should be in their right to say, well, we were literally told we're making this move to improve the club. And like the first warning signs for me were, I remember when Iron Man came out, the documentary, and they interviewed David Sullivan in his horrendously decorated mansion. Jesus Christ, that guy's a billionaire, and he just get someone to do it for you anyway. And they interviewed him there, and he was like, "Well, the move's only worth about 8 to 10 million every year, so it's not for the money." I'm like, "Well, what the bloody hell was it for then? You told us this was why we're doing it, and then you're saying, oh, it's 8 to 10 million." At the time, he went, "That's like one average Premier League player." Now that's nothing. That's nothing, you know. So, like, I think I think personally, yes, I think you should expect more, because I think you shouldn't get lied to and then just be like, "Ah, it's fine." Especially if you feel strongly about Upton Park. But again, it's individual people. I just, you know,
What about you, Mitch?
You can't help some people, James.
I agree, mate. I agree. What about you, Mitch? Before we move on, should fans be looking at this now and going, right, we're not that team of Upton Park era. We're in Stratford now. We've got to start acting like this big club who's got 65-seat stadium plus, and start having that ambition of going, right, we want top 6 every year. Not, and if we don't get it, then why aren't we getting it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I do. I think I do agree with that statement. And out of every kind of thing I've said, I think the thing which I stand by the most is if you can, in sport, if you play sport yourself, you don't. For me, example, if I play any sport, I go out there to win. I don't go there to come second. I'm gutted because I'm always thinking what we could do better. So when I feel so strongly about, my club West Ham, I feel like I'm in their shoes. I'm in the ride. I go to the games I watch every game to enjoy a part of that success, because I feel like I've been through the rough. So all I want is the best. And what I'm about to say now is my main kind of mindset in terms of this. And it's that if you can if you can praise the players for the best performances, you can also criticize them. And I just feel like when you're doing slightly better than you usually are, you're not allowed to give any criticism. But there's always criticism. There's always ways for players, managers, coaching staff, everything in the club to improve. And look, the problem I have is that I feel like a lot of our fans that are being over positive and saying, "Oh, we're full for this and that," they feel like other fans are being too critical, and they're not. Me, I'm one of them. But I'm not having a meltdown. I'm just putting out little things in the club, like certain players or certain things where I think we should change. I'm not saying Moy should go. This is a complete mess. This season's over. I'm not. I'm just putting out little things here and there, game by game, where I think we should change. I think we should improve on players that I think we should bring in. No one's having a meltdown. No one is. No one on Twitter is going, "This is a complete mess. This is a shambles." Besides some odd few nutcases, but like everyone just needs to, I think, relax, enjoy the season, but also allow other people to criticise players and managers and performances, and also give praise. And I do both. I try to do both. I just feel like some people, as you said, expectations and mentality, I feel like some people just feel like you should only give praise.
I agree, mate. I agree. So I'll quickly ask you this, Charlie. Do you agree with that statement or disagree?
I'll say agree. Let's go. Screw it. I'm going to annoy everyone in a minute anyway, so I'll say agree. What does it matter? I'm about to piss everyone off anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. And Mitchell, agree or disagree, mate?
I strongly agree.
Strongly agree.
Very strongly agree.
Moving on to the final topic of the night. It's going to be an interesting one. This is why I left it till last. It's this one. We should sell Declan Rice this summer window, Charlie.
Yes.
Explain, Charlie.
Well, I've stepped down from my original one, which was going to be, well, the original one was Declan Rice is overrated. Then the next one underneath that was we should, and then should we? So I've stepped down from the original Declan Rice is overrated, and we'll talk about it in a more sensible manner. Although, okay, so I think the truth is this, right? He's going. It's a fact of life. He is leaving West Ham at some point. Unless somehow overnight we magically turn into a top 4 club every single year, which again, ignoring the people in my mentions, we're not a top 4 club. You need to deal with that eventually. It's not happening. It's not happening. Now, if we somehow got Champions League this year, he would stay. Right? I'm firmly believe he would stay. There might even be a chance of him staying if we got Europa League. Although, that's not progress for him. He's leaving. It's happening. The sooner we all come to terms with that, the better. We can't sit here, and the amount of times I see people talking about we need to give him a new contract, we need to build the team around him. I'm like, you can't build the team around the one player in the entire squad you can guarantee is Yarmolenko's still here, and you're telling me he's more likely to stay than flipping Declan Rice is. Now, obviously, Yarmolenko's out of contract, so he will definitely be off in the summer. But it's just happening. It's a fact of life. And so realistically, you have to look at it and you have to go, right, when is the right time to sell Declan Rice? Because that's the honest thing we have to do at this point, is we have to be realistic and we have to say, when will it benefit West Ham the most? And the answer is now. The answer is now, while he's still in form, while he's still doing well. Because his price is never going to get injury-free. Another great point. Because the answer is, he's never going to be worth more than he is right now. Right?
How much really he's worth, Charlie?
We'd get 100 million for him. And he's
and
the thing is with worth, a player is only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for him. We can sit here and go, well, for us, he's worth 150, he's worth 200, everything else. Doesn't matter. No one's paying him for that. It's not happening. It's not happening. If flipping Jadon Sancho, who is probably the second best young player, third best young player in the world last season, and before then was only going for 72 million for Manchester United, how the hell do you think we're getting more than that for Declan Rice? It's not going to happen. Max, we're getting 100 million. Even then, I think 80 million is probably more realistically where it's at. Now, 80 million, we can discuss terms, because the reason I say this is the facts of the matter is selling Declan Rice is a generational opportunity for West Ham. We very, very, very rarely have players so good that we can sell them for 3 figures. Payet was world class and we sold him for 25 million. And Payet was legitimately world class. Payet, again, when I was looking up stats the other day, is still creating more shots, more everything in France now at whatever age he is than anyone else in the league. More than Messi, more than Neymar, more than Mbappe, more than anyone. It's insane how predictive that guy is. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense, and yet it happens. And so realistically, we need to ask ourselves this. How much can we get for him, and when is the best to do it? And that is now, because it's a generational opportunity. You sold Declan Rice for, say, 100 million, you can get 3 £30 million players through the door. You could get 4 £25 million players through the door. And that's the point here. We already spoken on this show about how the squad needs to be better. At least the squad needs to be better to get where we're going. If not, the starting 11 needs to be better to get to where we want to go. We've spoken about how we should be demanding more from the club itself, how we shouldn't be holding ourselves to the old West Ham standard. We need to be holding ourselves to the standard of what the board said we should be moving into the stadium. And if we are to get anywhere like that, we need to improve the squad. So in order to improve the squad, we need to buy the players. And the fact of the matter is, Declan Rice will not be worth more than what he is right now. He's a defensive midfielder. As much as he doesn't think he's one, he is a defensive midfielder. And the truth is as well, if you're a bigger club, let's say City, he's not going to be roaming forward for Manchester City. He's going to be playing the Rodri role, right? Which is sitting deep. Now, he's probably not going to go to Manchester City except Rodri, although they're looking for someone to replace Fernandinho, but it's not going to happen. So anyone who's big, who's chasing him, who are the only people who are going to be able to afford him, are people who would play him as a defensive midfielder. If you're a defensive midfielder, you're not going for that much money. Again, if Jadon Sancho is leaving for 72 million, there is no chance we're getting more than that. So
it's a different situation, though, Sancho, to be fair.
It is, but it's also not that different in that he was one of the most exciting young English talents. And he was creating shots, goals, everything out the wazoo. Declan Rice can't hit a barn door with a banjo because he keeps shooting from 45 yards. The point I'm trying to make is, without saying Declan Rice is overrated, although the point is that we need to take this opportunity. For example, and this is one of the counterpoints I get when I bring this up. AFA's 32. in the chat. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. Shout out to the boy. Right? Spurs did that and they bought poorly with Bale. They didn't. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say those 7 players all worked out because they didn't. But all of a sudden, they have significantly more value in their squad than they did previously. A couple of them work out. Lamella probably worked out.
They did do better.
Yeah, Lamella probably worked out, and a couple of others maybe worked out in the long run. Eriksen, exactly. They improved their squad overall, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, they're in a Champions League final. Now, obviously, I'm not saying we're going to get into a Champions League final. We're starting from a much deeper position. That's not going to happen. But if we are to get to the place we all want to, if we are to improve the squad like we all want us to do, there are very few opportunities we're going to get to sell someone for 100% profit in Declan Rice. This isn't a situation where we buy Haller for 40, and if he does really well, maybe we could sell him for 50 the next season, right? No, this isn't a situation like this. This is 100% profit. We should sell Declan Rice because it's the only opportunity we're really going to get in order to fully get to where we want to go. Also, Charlotte, he is overrated a bit, but you know what I mean? I'm not going into that now. We can talk about that another day.
We can talk about that another day. Mitchell, do you agree or disagree with that? And give me your reasons why.
I do disagree. Yeah, I do disagree. I've been listening to the points, so they're all fair points. None of them are like the reasons behind it, and when it's explained, a lot of it does make sense. Like I see exactly where you're coming from. For me, I just feel like he's the best player in the team, and if I had my way in the team, so if I was owner of the club, I would just simply say, all right, Declan, we want to keep you here. I know it's about being realistic, and I get your point, Charlie. But at the same time, I feel like he's our best player, and I feel like if he was to go out, make some really good signings, which I feel like we should be doing, and we're not doing, and did get top 4. I think he'd stay if he was in a very good contract as well, which I don't get why he's not. I don't get why Yarmolenko's contract hasn't been terminated, because the money he's on, it's going to cost us, I think, 13 million for the to keep him here for the rest of the season, which is incredible, which is just a joke. And that's why Walker's on a rather match. Them 2 players could just go. Like the youth players could do as good a job, if not better, than both of them players. Both of them players could go, and then you could give half their wages combined to Declan Rice. And actually, no, we'd probably give Yarmolenko's wages to Declan Rice. And that would increase Rice's wage to like 210 grand a week. And then from that, I just feel like we should have loads of ambition and just go out and get the players, which I think we should be targeting. Teams around us like Aston Villa, the players they brought in, like 2 exceptional signs in Digne and Coutinho, I think they're players which everyone says they're like too good for Villa. But who says they're too good for Villa? If the players want to join Villa, makes no sense. Like if Coutinho, if we offer Coutinho the same money and at the same budget as Villa, Coutinho would join us straight away. It's just, I feel like it's too much diver-davering with Moyes. And the one good thing about Pellegrini, it may have been not quite right for us, and the signings weren't the best. Obviously, I know he did make some good signings for us, but at least he didn't fuck about in the transfer window. His targets may not have been great, but he didn't fuck about. And I feel like even though Moyes has brought in the right players, I feel like he hasn't brought enough players in, and that could go down to him on the board. However, you could argue the fact why was Pellegrini able to get a lot of players in and Moyes hasn't been? Was Pellegrini more demanding than Moyes in terms of transfers? I think that is the case. Yeah, I just feel like there should be a lot more ambition, and I would love Rice to be the centrepiece of that club. It would be a bit different if Rice wasn't happy, and you could tell that. But I still feel like he's happy at the club. I know in the summer, X said that Rice would never force. Ex-West Ham employee said he would never force his way out of the club, which is great to hear. But if a massive offer did come in and Rice did want a move away, then yeah, I would sell him. But that's the only situation where I would want to sell him. If he wanted to go, no amount of money could entice him away, because I don't feel like we would spend that money wisely or spend it at all if we did get that 100 million.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one for me. When I saw this question, I thought, this is awkward for me.
Sorry, boys. Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, Fabianski just signed a new contract just now.
Oh, blimey.
Breaking
news, everyone.
Breaking news.
Breaking news, Ariola ain't signing. So, yeah, that's all good news at West Ham. This is a tough one.
To be fair, I don't think that's got anything to do with Ariola. He was Fabianski was signing regardless. It's just a case of 1 year, his extension, and it. But still, carry on. Carry on telling me I'm wrong. It's fine.
This is a tough one. This is because I partly agree with Charlie and partly disagree. I feel if we sell Declan Rice for say 130 million, 120 million, say a big bid come in like that, and we sold him, and the money was invested in the team, I know that we could go out and get 4 or 5 players, like even 20 million a piece, who are quite decent. Like, do you know what I mean? You can go out and get a proper striker at this club. It's not about the money spent from him, but you could buy a new squad. You can go and buy some youngsters from the champ.
But it's all if buts and maybes, though, mate. Like you may not ever get a player as good as that in their position again, and we probably never would. I know you could reinvest it, but it's not a football manager at the end of the day. We don't know how.
But is he going to be guaranteed to be here though? Like, because what Charlie's saying, I do make him right. We all know as fans, if you don't, you're deluded. That he ain't going to be here for the rest of his career. Like, he's not going to be here. Like, I'd love him to be here for the next 10 years, but I just can't see it. I just can't see it at all. Can we match his ambition? I don't think we can. Like with the signings and all that, I don't think we can do it. So if a bid come in of 120 million and that money was solely invested in West Ham, that's only going to make us stronger. One player won't define us, but 120 million will definitely make us stronger. Could it take us to the next level? Something what Afa said earlier, make him right. They sold Bale. Did they really sign badly, Spurs? Yeah. But they did get better. They did get a lot better with the people that they brought in. They went from there.
That doesn't work with every club, though, mate. Like Southampton sold Van Dijk for a load of money, and
even Villa. I understand that. And Villa sold Grealish for 100 million in the summer.
Villa's budget's been incredible anyway. They didn't need to sell Grealish. They spent that money, and they've already spent even more money. They've spent loads more money in this January transfer window.
It's an interesting one because on the one hand, we all know that he will go, but when? That's the $1 million question. Do you know what I mean? When is the right time, Mitch?
The right time is when he wants to go. I think if he wants to go, and his mentality ain't fully there, I think then there's a potential drop off in performances from that point. It's happened with Kane this season. It happens with loads of players that when they've got this mentality, they just drop off. Martial as well, great example. When players ain't fully committed to the club, there's always problems. So I think as soon as there's a bit of doubt and it comes out that, I don't know, and the club will know that. The club will know that when he doesn't want to be there. But I think you can clearly tell by Rice and the way he puts out statements that he does love the club. Obviously, look, he's only human. He wants to do the best. But at the same time, he will have a love for West Ham as well. At the same time, it's just at that point, there's a tipping point where it is performance based. I reckon if we do drop out the Europa League, I think if we get top 6 again this season and maybe win Europa League or get to the final, I think Rice will think, look, we are progressing slowly in the right way and we could become a top 4 team. I do want to stay here. Then I wouldn't sell him.
We shouldn't have to sell him, really. We shouldn't.
Exactly. And look, for me, the statement is we should sell Declan Rice this summer window. I don't think we should sell him, but again, it's all about how he feels for me. If he wants to go, then I think we should cash in him this summer. But I don't think he does want to go this summer. So therefore, that's why I disagree with the statement.
Do I agree or disagree with this one? This is a tough one for me.
I think the truth is, right, and like, for example, you mentioned Football Manager there. If this is Football Manager, I'm not selling Declan Rice. You know what I mean? When I'm playing Football Manager, when I don't play FIFA, but when I play FIFA, when I'm playing PES, whatever I'm playing, of course I'm not. I'm keeping him. He's the boy. You keep him as long as you possibly can. But we don't have money. We're not a club that has a lot of money. Hey, maybe
apparently we do have decent. Apparently, we've got funds at the moment to buy players.
We should have money, but we never spend it. Like truthfully, we just don't. We should have it. We 100% should. I used to be an accountant.
If we had a different manager, though, we'd be spending more money.
The thing is, though, with this,
you're trying to get me in trouble. Yes, probably. I think he's slow. He's differing. He doesn't know what he's doing most of the time. He sort of goes from left to right.
But the question is, you know, with him, if we was to sell Declan Rice right now, next in this summer coming, will that benefit us long term with the investment of other players coming in? Like, and for me, if West Ham's got a budget of say 60 million in the summer, they're going to get 100 million, 120 million for Declan Rice. It's 180 million. You can do a lot of damage with 180 million.
But it depends on the position that we are, though, James. If we're not in Europa League, if we don't win the Europa League and we don't qualify for the Europa League or the Conference, clubs ain't going to be like, why should we join West Ham? And then we lose Rice, a player that could potentially keep us in those positions each year, and then we've just got a budget. But it's a tough one. It's not like we'll have ridiculously loads amount of money to just throw at players because we have a decent budget, but we won't be going, we're going to be paying you silly amounts of money like Newcastle will be doing. So, and it's one of those ones. Like, for me, it depends on how this season finishes.
The most difficult thing would be to replace Declan Rice. That's the most difficult thing to do. But to be honest with you, when he's playing like he is at the moment, we can replace him quite easily. But when the difficult thing is replacing him. It's just, bruv, he needs to stop going forward. He's an idiot. Look, anyway, the point is that replacing him would be the difficult thing, right? Replacing him would be the difficult bit because you're like, okay, the captain, the guy who's been arguably the best player of the last couple of years, like someone who, when he's like, he's one of the players who, at worst, is giving you a 7 out of 10, and they're very difficult to come across. Do you know what I mean? Diop, great example. First season, unreal. So good that first season. Since then, barely got to a 7 out of 10.
So everyone says that he was unreal. It was better.
I know. I'm using him as an example, right? You could say that for most other players at West Ham. Like, the only other player this season who's like that is Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen is worse this season, I would say, gave you a 7 out of 10. Every other performance, he's doing bits right now, right? And there are very, very few players. And even Jared Bowen, this is the first time in his West Ham career he's done that. You know what I mean? Declan Rice has done that practically since he came into the team. So, like, replacing that is the really difficult part. But again, we can't go and sign another defensive midfielder if we still have Declan Rice in the team. Like, it's just not like we saw with like the Crowell situation. That's the best we got. Was Crowell. Now I like Crowell and I want to see Crowell more. Everything else, right? I don't think he's a flop yet. I want to see him get in the team more. But even then, it's difficult to go out and go, right, let's buy a defensive midfielder when they look at our squad and they go, well, Declan Rice and Thomas Souček, I'm not getting into that team. And I think you have to. That's the difficult part. Outside of
Souček can go fuck himself.
I know. But outside of that, this is the one opportunity we're really gonna get to really go out there and genuinely, properly, completely transform this team. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen.
When do you think, Charlie, before we sort of come towards the end, when do you think he does go? So I agree with you. He will leave West Ham. There's no two ways about it. He ain't staying forever. It ain't a case of if, it's a case of when. So when do you see it?
Depending on how we finish this year. If we finish strongly this year, next summer.
I think next summer he'll leave. So I think the lack of quality in our squad will catch up with us next season, and I think a lot more players will be exposed, and I think we'll be like a mid-table team next season, and that's when Rice will go. See you later.
It has to. That's the thing. It has to. It's the matching. It's the matching.
But would his value go down? Would his value go down for us being a mid-table team?
And that's a very fair point. Like, because if he, for instance, we finish 6th, and but then again, why not go into this summer thinking we've got a decent budget? Let's actually, because apparently, we should have now. If we don't sign any big players in this January transfer window, then we should have a sizable budget in the summer, considering we've also got a new shareholder in. surely we should have maybe at least a £90 million budget, £80 million budget at least in this summer. And for me, we've got to spend the money on some. I'd love us to go into summer window nice and early and get some good players in, like Jonathan David. Why not go out for these players? Which it's not that outlandish. If Villa are signing Digne and they're below us, like 5 positions below us, if they're signing players like Digne.
Oh, I think it's if we went out there and made a statement, like, it would happen. But we're not signing anyone early in this.
We're signing players like Vlasic for 36 million.
But the thing is with Vlasic, right? If we want to, this, and I'll repeat to this point once because I know I'm in a chat here with 2 people who I will not win this argument with. But the point is with Vlasic is that's the profile we should be going after. Here's a guy who's absolutely killing it in the league he's doing it in. It's a relatively big money signing. Let's go out and make it and try and improve this team. Now, whether or not it works out is a different story, and I'm not gonna. Again, I'm going to lose this argument with you two, so let's not step into it. But that's at least the profile of the kind of person we should be going out and stepping after, right? The truth is, though, the League 1 thing, that thing, right? How long ago were we told, "Oh, we're really looking at players from League 1"? Years ago. How many have we signed? None. We're so slow and stupid in the transfer market. We don't know what we're doing. Most
we are, mate. We are.
And the thing is, and this is the thing. I think the other benefit to selling Declan Rice is that you literally are forced to do that. You cannot tell me that all of those stands who, for example, I annoyed very much yesterday with my comments and everything else, all of those people, they're not going to accept Declan Rice going and then us going, right, what are we going to do? They signed this championship player for £8 million. No, they're not going to accept that. That's the only, again, I think what you said, I make you 100% right, Mitch, what you're talking about Pellegrini, for example, about the idea of like, was he more forthright in transfer market and stuff like that? And the truth is he came in, he demanded a budget and he demanded a director of football, and he went out and he did his Fornals. We went out and signed Fornals before he went away to play in the under-23s World Cup or whatever it was. Absolutely brilliant there. So we got him for less than we would have when we ended up signing him, right? It's stuff like that where he was like, I know what I want. I'm going and I'm doing it. I'm doing the legworks to make sure it's happening. We're at the stage I saw on Twitter yesterday or today at some point. I don't know. All my days have rolled into one. But I saw on Twitter the other day, oh yeah, well, we're thinking about who we should have our striking targets settled by the end of this week. Haller left a year ago. Moyes has been here over a year. Pellegrini came in. We had people through the door within the first week. That
is the biggest load of shambles I've seen at West Ham in a while, actually. This striker problem is a disgrace. That is the biggest problem out of everything. Now, we have not... Moyes has not lined up another striker target before the transfer window, and still is not in negotiations with anyone. Is a disgrace.
And don't get me wrong. I would be as concerned as anyone else at what we would do with that money and how we would spend it and would it work and all of this kind of stuff. But you can't not take that opportunity when it's ahead of you, because by not taking the opportunity, and it's a cliche for a reason, if you don't try and take the opportunity, you're guaranteed to miss it. You have to take the shot. Eminem said it. You got one chance, one opportunity. He said it. You know, like if you don't try it, look, historically, would it work for West Ham? No, probably not. But you have to try it. You otherwise you're just going to be sat there, and we're going to be sat there with Rice and a squad around him, and you're like, okay. Or we go, let's go for this. We take our opportunity when we have it, and I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, as Eminem said.
I've got to admit, I agree with Eminem. It's one shot, and I wish our owners would have one shot in the transfer market and sign some players. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. I must admit, it's been a thoroughly enjoyable show as well. Good opinions from both of you lads, I must admit. Got the chat talking.
Next time, James, I'll say Rice is overrated, and then we can really get angry. Don't worry about it. We'll do that then.
No worries.
Charlie, honestly, I thought your opinion, mate, was absolutely brilliant. It was actually a really interesting one to think about, because even though it may come across outlandish at first, when you actually think about it and talk about it, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of aspects. So fair play.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I know I'm wrong, but it's okay.
No, you're not though. I don't think you are, because even I disagree. It's not something which I think's crazy, and a lot of people do come out with bollocks. Like, that Diop's a better defender than Ogbonna, for example.
Mm.
There's nothing in the world you could say to me. You could say he's got a big cock or anything. There's nothing you could say to me that I would prefer Diop over Ogbonna.
Well, we'll save that for another time, Mitch. We'll save that for another time, brother. Do you know what I mean? I want to thank Charlie for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate him. Every time he does come onto this channel, he's articulated in how he speaks and comes across, and I do like that in opinions and subjects. Do you know what I mean? Some we agree, some we disagree, but that's what it's all about. So thank you very much, Charlie, for coming on tonight. Mitchell, same to you too, mate. Always a pleasure to have you on, son. I must admit, your opinion tonight was bang on. I looked at it. I thought, I don't know about that, Mitch, but as the show began, I started thinking about it. Got a valid point, mate. We've got a lot of players in this team who, if we was aiming for the stars, they wouldn't be anywhere near the team, in my opinion. I want to thank everyone in the chat tonight for commenting. I see all the comments. I see all the people copping the ump because they weren't getting their name put up, but it is what it is. Where opinions are flying, do you know what I mean? It's all good, but I appreciate it from all using the chat also. So yeah, it's all good. If you like the video, please give the video a like and please subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. It helps me out greatly. That's it. I can speak English now. But yeah, I'll be back at the weekend. Manchester United versus West Ham in a game where after tonight's results didn't go for us, we need a win. So yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. All the best. And Declan Rice is staying for now. Bye for now.